Hey there guys, so back with another video. So it's official, Mairis Briedis is going to be fighting Krzysztof Glowacki in the semi-final of the World Boxing Super Series tournament at Cruiserweight. It's going to be taking place in Riga, Latvia, so it's going to be in Briedis' hometown. So let's talk about this one. Now, I'm really excited about this fight, man. I really can't wait to see it. It's going to be an excellent one, really interesting one too. And you guys that have been following my channel will know I'm a big fan of both of these guys. Been following both of their careers, and I rate both of them very highly. And yeah, basically I had a lot to say after Mairis Briedis' last fight. If you guys saw my review for that fight and my initial thoughts on this fight, then basically to sum them up, I thought that No Givor beat Mairis Briedis. I thought he won the fight clearly, and I didn't agree with the decision. But I did concede that it wasn't Briedis' best night. It was clear to me that Briedis was dealing with some out of the ring issues. He had a different trainer. He had issues with injuries. I believe it was like a shoulder injury or a hand injury he had. So clearly to me, Mairis Briedis had a real bad night, an off night, and it was the worst performance of his career as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, going in against Glowacki, that last fight has sort of shaken people's confidence in Briedis. I've noticed a lot of people, including a lot of Briedis supporters, have made Glowacki the favourite for this fight. A lot of people seem to think that Briedis, just doesn't have it anymore, and they've written him off completely. I totally disagree. I actually favour Mairis Briedis to beat Krzysztof Glowacki, and I always have. And I said that after the last fight, even though I wasn't impressed with Briedis' performance, and I was impressed with Glowacki's performance that night against Vlasov, I still favour Briedis slightly in this fight, and I'm going to explain why. Now, Mairis Briedis, to me, like I said, he didn't look great last time out, okay? He was contending with injuries, had problems in training camp, wasn't able to spar and whatnot, and I thought he clearly lost the fight. Briedis, putting that fight aside, one of the things that's always impressed me about Briedis, and is always sort of given him an edge in this cruiserweight division, is how he's able to land significant power punches while on the move. That's one thing that really impresses me about Briedis. It always has, is that on the outside while he's bouncing around and boxing, he can just jump in with sort of a half hook, half uppercut, and he can put you to sleep. If you guys haven't watched this fight with Manuel Char, I'd recommend you see that fight, because that was a highlight of what Briedis can do on a good night. When he's prepared mentally and physically. He completely outboxed and dominated the heavyweight Manuel Char, who went on to win a title at heavyweight, and he knocked him out cold in the 6th round, I believe it was, with a huge half hook, half uppercut from distance, put him to sleep. It was a really brutal and clinical knockout. Briedis also, has shown power in other fights. If you look at his fight against Simon Vallily, who was an undefeated contender, he went over to the UK to fight Simon Vallily and looked really good. Broke him down, hit him with some body shots. It was a real clinical performance, just a destruction. He sort of undressed him and took him out in style, and I thought it was a really impressive performance from Briedis. My point is, Briedis is a very talented fighter on a good night. I mean, I remember watching him fight Marco Huck, went over to Marco Huck's backyard and completely dominated him and won on points. So I think that people are being a little bit hasty to write this guy off. I genuinely think that Briedis has a lot of talent and a lot of potential. Now, does he have flaws? Certainly. Okay, like we saw in the Usyk fight, if he can't take you out, and if he can't sort of match you on the inside, he is vulnerable. I mean, it was Usyk's, in my opinion, it was Usyk's work rate and Usyk's inside fighting ability which completely got the better of Briedis in that fight. Although Briedis did have his moments, and he was actually giving Usyk a lot of problems here and there, and landing power shots and making Usyk think. To me, it was just Usyk's raw stamina and Usyk's experience of fighting in close quarters and stuff like that that just completely bossed Briedis, and as a result of that, Usyk was the ring general, and he outworked and outboxed and shut down Briedis eventually and managed to win a decision. And also, when I'm talking about Briedis' flaws, if you look at the Mike Perez fight, for example, that was a really awkward night for him, if you know what I mean. Like stylistically, the southpaw style and the sort of the way that Mike Perez would lean in with his head and stuff like that. It really did upset Briedis, and it caused Briedis to hold a lot. It caused him to lean, and it caused him to just look really messy and really scrappy on the inside. And I really think that if you're fighting Mairis Briedis, the best way to beat him is not to box him. The best way to beat him is to unsettle him and rough him up and really, get inside and hit him to the body and just make it an uncomfortable fight for him. He's one of these guys who is very fundamental and likes to keep it long, likes to keep it basic. But I think an awkward style, a guy who's more unorthodox and more slick on the inside, is something that is a problem for Briedis. And going into this fight, that's something to think about because, as I mentioned, the southpaw style of Usyk and Perez, Krzysztof Glowacki is also a southpaw. Krzysztof Glowacki is also powerful. He also has good stamina. He also is quite decent on the inside. And you're probably thinking, yeah, this is a really difficult stylistic matchup for Briedis. But the reason why I've always favoured Briedis in this fight is because, looking at Krzysztof Glowacki and all the fights I've seen of him, he's a good fighter. He's very solid. He's very strong. Hits hard. He has, in my opinion, the same problem that a guy like Denis Lebedev has. Is he's one of these guys who, while he's a tough, strong, solid, well-built southpaw, he seems vulnerable to me from the outside. He seems like you can hit him. I remember watching his fight against Steve Cunningham, and I actually rewatched it not that long ago, and I didn't realise the first time watching that fight just how much Glowacki actually did get hit in that fight. Although he won the fight and scored multiple knockdowns, I think he scored 4 knockdowns, Steve Cunningham was landing combinations on the move and landing straight right hands from the outside. And that's a guy in Steve Cunningham who is not a puncher. And also, when Glowacki fought Marco Huck, who Briedis also fought, Huck was landing a heck of a lot of power shots in that fight from the outside. He even dropped Krzysztof Glowacki in the mid-rounds and almost had him out of there. I mean, Krzysztof Glowacki got caught with a long left hook from distance, and yeah, Marco Huck was close to getting him out of there, but he managed to tough his way through it, grit his teeth and fight back, and Glowacki won an impressive knockout in the 11th. So, yeah, as I've said, Glowacki's powerful, he's got stamina, he's definitely going to be a handful for Briedis, but when I think of those fights, even the Usyk fight, if you look at the Usyk fight with Glowacki, the guy's very hittable from the outside. I can just picture in my mind, when I close my eyes and think about this fight, I can picture Briedis being able to land power shots. I can picture him being able to land that straight right hand from distance. Briedis is a considerably harder puncher than Marco Huck. He's a considerably harder puncher than Steve Cunningham. And in my opinion, he's also a harder puncher than Usyk. All of those guys can punch, don't get me wrong, but Briedis to me is a one-punch knockout artist on a good night. I mean, I couldn't imagine any one of those guys doing to Manuel Charr what Briedis did on that night. So, to me, Briedis has an advantage here on the outside. If he can keep this fight long, just use his jab, move, and stick to his fundamentals, and don't get caught up in a brawl. Don't allow Glowacki to do to him what Usyk and Perez did to him, which was drag him into a fight and make it a war of attrition. Obviously, Usyk more so than Perez, because Usyk managed to win the fight, Perez didn't. While it was at long range, if I remember from that fight, from long range, Briedis had the better of Perez. Perez's only chance in that fight was to make it ugly. And as a result of that, Briedis just held because he didn't really know what to do on the inside. And that's what Glowacki needs to do, in my opinion. Glowacki needs to make it a fight. He needs to get inside, he needs to work the body, he needs to try and push Briedis back to the ropes. He needs to make it uncomfortable for Briedis. He needs to make Briedis remember those injuries and remember those fights which he had trouble inside, and really make it an infight and a brawl, because I do think at long range it's going to favour Briedis. I mean, if Briedis is able to land the kind of hook that he landed on Manuel Charr, which took him out, let's not forget, Glowacki was caught by one of those shots against Marco Huck, and he was put down and he was really badly stunned. So, in my opinion, Glowacki could have been taken out at that point. In my opinion, he was really hurt looking at that. So, if it's Briedis landing a shot like that on him, is he going to get up? Probably. It'll probably take him 30 seconds or so to get up. So, yeah, man. I'm really looking forward to this fight. I'm not going to write Mairis Briedis off. I think that would be foolish to write this guy off. The guy's a very dangerous fighter, a very dangerous puncher. You know, he's really talented in my opinion. I know a lot of people are writing him off because of the last fight against Nogavor, where he clearly, in my opinion, lost. What I would say about that is, look at the later rounds of that fight. Look at the 12th round, the 11th and 12th rounds of those fights, and look at who was the more energetic of the two. To me, midway through that fight and going towards the end of the fight, in my personal opinion, it was Briedis who looked to me like the fresher guy. I think Briedis found his timing, and I do think that he won some of the later rounds. For example, like I said, the 12th round, I thought Briedis actually did win that round, and I think that he did sort of figure out Nogavor, but I think he figured him out a little bit too late, if you know what I mean. And I just think that if they had a rematch, I would totally favour Mairis Briedis in the rematch of that fight. I totally would. Got to take into consideration too that this fight's taking place in Latvia, in Riga, where he's going to have a ton of support from the crowd. Briedis is going to be the home fighter. So if it's close on the scorecards, then you could see Briedis maybe getting the nod if it's close. But you never know. It's a good fight. I'm picking Briedis to win on points. I would totally give either guy a puncher's chance at a knockout, but I think Briedis, to me, I'm going to go with him on points for this one. I could be wrong, but I favour Briedis in this fight. I've got to be honest. I think Briedis could outbox Glowacki and win a decision, or maybe even if he's able to land a shot like he did on Hook, he could. Sorry, like he did on Manuel Chaw, he could win this fight. So yeah, I'm picking Briedis. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching, and God bless.